My mother-in-law poisoned me for 12 years. Small doses. Just enough to keep me sick but not enough to kill me. Every Sunday dinner. Every holiday meal. Every casserole she dropped off when I was feeling under the weather. I spent a decade thinking I had a chronic illness. I saw 14 different doctors. I took 23 different medications. I lost 3 pregnancies because my body was too weak to carry a baby. Then a toxicology report revealed arsenic in my system. And my husband wasn't surprised. He already knew. He had known for years. He watched his mother slowly poison his wife and said nothing. He held my hair while I vomited and brought me ginger ale and called his mother to tell her I was having another episode. He drove me to emergency rooms and sat in waiting rooms and listened to doctors say they couldn't find anything wrong. He knew exactly what was wrong. He just didn't care enough to stop it. My name is Serena. I was married to a man named Gregory Hartwell for 14 years. I thought we had a good marriage. I thought we loved each other. I thought the only problem in our life was my mysterious illness, the one that made me tired all the time, the one that caused my hair to fall out in clumps, the one that turned my skin gray and my nails brittle and my body into a prison I couldn't escape. I didn't know the problem was sitting across from me at every family dinner, smiling, passing me another helping of her famous pot roast, watching me eat the poison she had prepared with her own hands. I met Gregory when I was 24 years old. A friend's birthday party. He was 28, handsome, successful, working as a financial analyst at a prestigious firm downtown. He had good manners and a nice smile, and he asked questions about my life like he actually cared about the answers. By our 3rd date, I was falling hard. By our 6th month, I had met his family. By our 1st anniversary, he proposed. Everything moved fast, but it felt right. Felt like fate. It felt like the beginning of a love story that would last forever. His mother, Patricia Hartwell, was charming at first. Warm. Welcoming. She hugged me the first time we met, and said she had been waiting for Gregory to find someone special. She included me in family events immediately, texting me about brunches and dinners and holiday plans like I was already part of the family. I thought I had won the mother-in-law lottery. My own mother had died when I was 19, and I was desperate for that maternal connection again. Patricia seemed to sense that desperation. She exploited it perfectly. The wedding was in June 2010. 200 guests. A cathedral ceremony. A reception at the country club where the Hartwells had been members for 30 years. Patricia planned most of it, insisting that I was too busy with work to handle all the details, offering to take the burden off my shoulders. I was grateful. I didn't realize she was establishing control, positioning herself as the center of our family life, ensuring that every major decision would flow through her. I was too in love to see the cage being built around me. The symptoms started 6 months after the wedding. December 2010. Fatigue that no amount of sleep could fix. Nausea that came and went without pattern. Headaches that lasted for days. I assumed it was stress. We had just bought a house. I had started a new job. The holidays were hectic. I told myself it would pass. Didn't pass. It got worse. By March 2011, I had lost 15 pounds without trying. My doctor ran blood tests, found nothing conclusive, suggested anxiety. By June, my hair was thinning noticeably. A dermatologist said it was stress-related alopecia. By September, I was having episodes of numbness in my hands and feet. A neurologist ordered MRIs, found nothing, prescribed vitamins. Every specialist I saw had a different theory and a different prescription. None of them considered poison. Why would they? I was a healthy 26-year-old woman with no known enemies. Who would want to poison me? Patricia visited regularly during this period. 2 or 3 times a week she would stop by with food. Soups and casseroles and baked goods, all homemade, all prepared with love, all delivered with the same concerned smile. "You need to keep your strength up," she would say, watching me eat. A mother knows what her children need. I wasn't her child, but I was too sick and too grateful to point that out. I ate everything she brought. Every poisoned bite. The first miscarriage was in November 2011. 8 weeks pregnant. I woke up bleeding and drove myself to the emergency room because Gregory was traveling for work. They couldn't save the baby. They couldn't explain why a healthy young woman had miscarried so early. "These things happen," the doctor said. "It's usually a chromosomal abnormality. Nothing you did wrong." I believed him. I blamed my body. I didn't blame the arsenic that was slowly accumulating in my tissues, attacking my reproductive system, making it impossible for me to carry a pregnancy to term. The second miscarriage was in August 2012, 10 weeks this time. Further along. More devastating. I had already bought maternity clothes. I had already told my friends. I had already started imagining what our baby would look like. Whether it would have Gregory's eyes or my smile. Patricia was at the hospital when I woke up from the D&C. She held my hand and told me everything would be okay, that God had a plan, that some women just weren't meant to be mothers. I cried into her shoulder. I thanked her for being there. I didn't know she was the reason I was there in the first place. Gregory was supportive in his own distant way. He accompanied me to doctor's appointments when his schedule allowed. He rubbed my back when I was nauseous. He told me he loved me regardless of whether we had children. But he also encouraged me to eat his mother's cooking, praised her for taking such good care of me, suggested that her weekly visits were the only thing keeping me functional. Mom knows best, he would say whenever I questioned whether I should try a new diet or see a different doctor. Just eat what she brings. It makes her happy. It made her happy because she was watching me die in slow motion. The third miscarriage was in January 2014. 12 weeks. A heartbeat on the ultrasound that stopped beating while I watched. I screamed in the examination room. I screamed until nurses came running. I screamed because something inside me knew this wasn't normal, wasn't natural, wasn't the random bad luck that doctors kept insisting it was. 3 miscarriages in 3 years. A body that was deteriorating for no discernible reason. A life that was shrinking smaller and smaller until all I did was sleep and vomit and cry. Something was very, very wrong. I demanded more tests after the third miscarriage. Demanded. Not asked. I sat in my OBGYN's office and refused to leave until she agreed to run every panel available. She tested my hormones, my thyroid, my immune system, my genetic markers for clotting disorders. Everything came back normal or borderline normal. Nothing explained my symptoms. Nothing explained the miscarriages. She referred me to a reproductive endocrinologist who referred me to an immunologist who referred me to a specialist in recurrent pregnancy loss who ultimately threw up his hands and suggested we consider surrogacy. My body apparently was unsuitable for carrying children. No one could tell me why. The years blurred together after that. 2015, 2016, 2017. Each year sicker than the last. I quit my job in 2016 because I couldn't maintain regular hours anymore. I became dependent on Gregory financially, which he never complained about but which made me feel small and useless. I stopped seeing friends because I was too exhausted to maintain relationships. I stopped hoping for children because hope had become too painful. I became a ghost in my own life, haunting the house Gregory and I shared, waiting for something to change without any expectation that it would. Patricia's visits continued throughout, twice a week without fail, sometimes 3 times if I was having a particularly bad stretch. She would arrive with food and sympathy and advice about vitamins and supplements and positive thinking. She would sit with me for hours watching television, chatting about nothing, making sure I ate every bite of whatever she had prepared. Gregory praised her constantly. "I don't know what we'd do without Mom," he would say. "She's keeping you alive." He was wrong about that. She was doing the opposite. The breakthrough came in October 2022, 11 years after the symptoms started. I had a new doctor, a young internist named Dr. Amara Hassan, who had just joined the practice where I had been a patient for years. She reviewed my file with fresh eyes and noticed something the previous doctors had missed. My symptoms had worsened gradually over time, following a pattern that suggested cumulative exposure to something toxic, rather than an autoimmune condition or chronic illness. She ordered a heavy metal panel. I don't know why no one had ordered one before. I don't know why it took 11 years for someone to ask the obvious question. But Dr. Hassan asked it, and the answer changed everything. The results showed elevated levels of arsenic in my blood and urine. Not massively elevated. Not enough to kill me quickly. But significantly elevated, consistent with chronic low-dose exposure over many years. Dr. Hassan called me personally to deliver the results. She said I needed to come in immediately. She said we needed to identify the source of exposure. She said I should think carefully about anything I consumed regularly that might be contaminated. Water. Food. Supplements. Anything. I thought about it. I thought about the well water in our house that we had tested years ago and found clean. I thought about the supplements I took, all purchased from reputable stores in sealed containers. I thought about the food I ate, mostly prepared by me or Gregory or Patricia. Patricia, who visited twice a week with homemade meals. Patricia, who insisted I eat everything she brought. Patricia, who watched me deteriorate year after year without ever suggesting a cause that might have been prevented. I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't believe it. A mother-in-law poisoning her son's wife? It was the plot of a bad movie, not real life. But Dr. Hassan said the arsenic had to be coming from somewhere, and the most likely source was something I consumed regularly but not constantly, something that entered my system in small doses over a long period of time. Patricia's visits were twice a week. Her food was the only thing I consumed that regularly that wasn't also consumed by Gregory. Gregory, who remained perfectly healthy while I wasted away beside him. I told Gregory about the test results that night. I watched his face carefully as I explained what the doctor had found. I expected shock. I expected confusion. I expected him to immediately start brainstorming possible sources with me. Instead, I saw something flicker across his expression before he controlled it. Something that looked like fear. Not fear for me. Fear of something else. Fear of being caught. That's strange, he said, his voice carefully neutral. Did the doctor say where it might be coming from? She said it's probably something I eat or drink regularly. Something I have but you don't. Another flicker. Another moment of controlled panic before his face smoothed into concern. We should figure this out. Make a list of everything you consume. Compare it to what I consume. Find the difference. He didn't mention his mother. He didn't suggest that her twice-weekly visits and homemade meals might be relevant. He just helped me make a list that somehow never included Patricia's cooking. A list designed to lead me away from the truth rather than toward it. I noticed. I didn't say anything. But I noticed. The hair sample test confirmed chronic exposure going back at least 5 years, possibly longer. Dr. Hassan referred me to a toxicologist who specialized in arsenic poisoning. He explained that my symptoms, the fatigue, the hair loss, the nausea, the numbness, the miscarriages, were all consistent with long-term arsenic exposure. He said I was lucky to be alive. He said at the levels in my system, another few years might have caused permanent organ damage or death. He asked if I had any idea who might want to hurt me. I said no. I wasn't ready to say yes. I wasn't ready to accuse my mother-in-law of trying to kill me based on a suspicion I couldn't prove. So I went home and I waited for Patricia's next visit, and when she arrived with a pot of homemade chicken soup, I smiled and thanked her and put the soup in the refrigerator and said I would eat it later. When she left, I drove the soup to a private laboratory and paid $400 to have it tested for heavy metals. The results came back 3 days later. Arsenic concentration of 847 parts per billion. The FDA limit for drinking water is 10 parts per billion. Patricia's soup contained 84 times the safe level of arsenic. Not enough to cause acute poisoning. Not enough to raise immediate red flags at a hospital. Just enough to slowly, gradually, systematically destroy my health over months and years of regular consumption. Just enough to kill me without anyone knowing it was murder. I sat in my car outside the laboratory for 2 hours after receiving those results. I couldn't drive. I couldn't think. I couldn't process the fact that a woman I had trusted, a woman I had loved like a mother, had been poisoning me for over a decade. Why? What had I done to deserve this? What could possibly motivate a person to slowly murder their son's wife while smiling and offering comfort and pretending to care? The confrontation with Gregory happened that night. I didn't plan what I was going to say. I just walked into our living room where he was watching television and I put the lab results on the coffee table and I said, "Your mother has been poisoning me. Did you know?" He didn't ask what I meant. He didn't ask to see the results. He didn't express shock or confusion or disbelief. He just went very still, the way a person goes still when they've been dreading a conversation and it's finally arrived. Then he said, "How did you find out?" Not, "That's impossible." Not, "You must be mistaken." Not, "We need to call the police." Just, "How did you find out?" An admission disguised as a question. A confession without the courage to actually confess. I don't remember everything I said after that. I remember screaming. I remember throwing things. I remember asking why, over and over, demanding an explanation that made sense of 12 years of suffering. Gregory's explanation didn't make sense. Nothing he said made sense. His mother had never wanted him to marry me. She thought I wasn't good enough for her son. She wanted him to marry someone from a better family. Someone with money and connections and a pedigree that matched the Hartwell name. When he refused, when he married me anyway, she decided to make me disappear gradually, to weaken me until I was too sick to be a wife, until Gregory would have no choice but to leave me and find someone more suitable. She was doing it for me, Gregory said, as if that explained anything. She thought she was helping me. She didn't mean for it to go this far. This far? She poisoned me for 12 years. I lost 3 babies. I lost my career. I lost my health. How far was she planning to go? He didn't answer. He couldn't answer. Because the answer was obvious. She was planning to go until I was dead. And he had let her. I called the police that night. Gregory begged me not to. He said we could handle this as a family. He said his mother was old, that prison would kill her, that exposing this would destroy the Hartwell reputation. I called anyway. I handed over the lab results, the hair sample analysis, the soup container I had saved as evidence. I told them everything. I watched 2 detectives exchange glances that said they had never heard anything like this before. I didn't care how strange it sounded. I had proof. I had evidence. I had 12 years of medical records documenting a slow-motion murder that somehow I had survived. Patricia Hartwell was arrested on October 28, 2022. She was 71 years old, a pillar of her community, a regular at charity galas and church functions and country club events. The charges were attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon. The evidence was overwhelming. The soup I had saved. Hair samples showing arsenic exposure going back years. Emails between Patricia and Gregory discussing my condition. Encoded language that prosecutors argued showed premeditation and conspiracy. Gregory was arrested as an accessory after the fact. He hadn't administered the poison, but he had known about it and failed to stop it. He had actively concealed it by steering my investigation away from his mother. He had enabled 12 years of torture because he was too weak to stand up to his mother and too cowardly to protect his wife. His bail was set at $500,000. He paid it with money from a trust fund Patricia had established for him years earlier. Blood money, I realized. Everything the Hartwells had was built on blood. The trial was in March 2023. I testified for 3 days. I described meeting Gregory, falling in love, the wedding that Patricia had insisted on planning. I described the symptoms that started 6 months later, the gradual decline, the doctors who couldn't find anything wrong. I described the miscarriages, 3 babies I would never hold because Patricia Hartwell had decided I wasn't worthy of carrying the Hartwell name into the next generation. I described finding out the truth, the soup that tested positive for arsenic, the husband who had known all along. I cried on the stand. Not performative tears for the jury. Real tears. 12 years of grief pouring out in a courtroom while the woman who had tried to kill me sat 20 feet away in a nice blazer and pearl earrings, looking like everyone's favorite grandmother. Patricia's defense was insanity. Her lawyers argued that she suffered from a delusional disorder, that she genuinely believed she was protecting her son from an unsuitable marriage, that she never intended to actually kill me. The prosecution countered with evidence of careful planning, deliberate dosing, years of calculated deception. They showed emails where Patricia discussed my progress with friends, using language that suggested she was monitoring my deterioration like a science experiment. They showed financial records where she had purchased rat poison in bulk from agricultural suppliers, far more than any residential property would need. They showed a pattern of behavior that was methodical, intentional, and utterly devoid of the chaos that typically characterizes genuine mental illness. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found Patricia Hartwell guilty of attempted first-degree murder and 3 counts of assault causing grievous bodily harm, 1 for each miscarriage. The judge sentenced her to 25 years to life in state prison. She would be 96 years old before becoming eligible for parole. She would almost certainly die behind bars. When the sentence was read, she turned to look at me with an expression I still can't interpret. Hatred? Confusion? Disbelief that her careful plan had failed? I don't know. I don't care. She's gone now. That's all that matters. Gregory pleaded guilty to accessory charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. 5 years in federal prison, eligible for parole after 3. His lawyers argued that he had been manipulated by his domineering mother, that he was a victim too, that he had been afraid to intervene. The prosecutor didn't buy it. The judge didn't buy it. I certainly didn't buy it. Gregory wasn't afraid of his mother. He was loyal to her. He chose her over me every day for 12 years. He watched me suffer and die slowly, and he chose silence because confronting her would have been inconvenient. That's not fear. That's complicity. The divorce was finalized while Gregory was still in prison. I took everything I was entitled to under state law. Half the house. Half the savings. Half the investments. His lawyers tried to argue that the Hartwell family assets were protected by prenuptial agreements and trusts, but the judge ruled that proceeds from criminal activity couldn't be shielded. Patricia had used family money to fund my poisoning. That money was now mine. $1.3 million in total. It wasn't enough. Nothing would ever be enough. But it was something. The recovery has been slow. Arsenic does permanent damage when exposure lasts this long. My kidneys function at 70% capacity. My nervous system has lasting damage that causes numbness and tingling in my extremities. My hair grew back but thinner than before, a daily reminder of what was taken from me. I will never have biological children. The miscarriages weren't random. They were murder. Patricia killed my babies before they were born, and she did it so systematically that no one suspected a thing. I moved across the country after the divorce was finalized. New city. New apartment. New doctors who know my history and monitor my organ function and treat me like a survivor rather than a mystery. I changed my name back to my maiden name. I deleted all social media accounts associated with my married life. I erased every trace of Serena Hartwell and became Serena Mitchell again. The woman I was before I met Gregory, before Patricia, before 12 years of slow-motion murder disguised as mother-in-law devotion. Therapy has helped. PTSD therapy specifically, because apparently what I experienced qualifies as prolonged trauma. My therapist specializes in victims of intimate partner violence, which is what this was, even though the violence came from a mother-in-law rather than a spouse. She helped me understand that I wasn't stupid for trusting Patricia. I was targeted. Con artists and abusers choose their victims carefully, and Patricia chose me because I was vulnerable, because my mother was dead, because I was desperate for family connection. She exploited that desperation masterfully. The failure wasn't mine. The evil was hers. I think about the babies sometimes. The 3 pregnancies that ended before they began. I don't know if they would have been boys or girls. I don't know what names I would have given them. I don't know who they would have become. What I know is that they deserved a chance. And Patricia Hartwell took that chance away because she didn't think I was good enough to carry her grandchildren. She killed them to protect bloodlines that meant nothing, to preserve a family name that is now synonymous with attempted murder. I hope she thinks about that in her prison cell. I hope she realizes that the legacy she was trying to protect is now destroyed forever. Gregory gets out of prison next year. 2025. I don't know where he'll go or what he'll do. His career is ruined. His family name is toxic. His mother will die in prison and his ex-wife is living well on money she won in the divorce. I don't wish him harm. I don't wish him anything. He simply ceased to exist in my emotional landscape. A character from a story I no longer tell except when I have to. A name I hear occasionally and feel nothing about. That numbness is its own kind of victory. He wanted me to disappear. Instead, he's the one who's gone. I met someone new last year. His name is Daniel. He knows everything about my past. I told him on our 4th date because I needed to know if the truth would scare him away. It didn't. He held my hand across the table and said, "You survived something that would have killed most people. That doesn't make you damaged. It makes you strong." I cried. I hadn't expected to cry. But no one had ever described me as strong before. Sick, yes. Fragile, yes. A victim always. But not strong. Daniel sees me differently. Daniel sees who I'm becoming rather than who I was forced to be. We're not rushing into anything. I'm not capable of rushing anymore. Trust takes time now. Every meal someone else prepares, I watch them take the first bite. Every drink someone pours me, I make sure it comes from the same container they're using. These precautions are probably paranoid. Most people aren't poisoners. Most mothers-in-law aren't murderers. But I'm not most people anymore. I'm someone who spent 12 years dying without knowing why. I'm someone who ate poison from the hands of a woman who smiled while serving it. I've earned the right to be careful. I've earned the right to protect myself. Patricia Hartwell will be 74 this year. She's in a women's correctional facility 3 states away. I've been told she has health problems now, the kind of problems I used to have, the irony so thick you could choke on it. I don't visit her. I don't write to her. I don't think about her except when I have to. Except when the numbness in my hands reminds me of what she did. Except when I see a pregnant woman and wonder what my children might have looked like. She wanted me to disappear. She nearly succeeded. But I'm still here. Still breathing. Still building a life from the wreckage she created. Every day I survive is a victory she didn't want me to have. If you're reading this and something feels wrong in your family, please pay attention. Please don't dismiss the warning signs because the person causing them is supposed to love you. Mothers-in-law can be predators. Husbands can be accomplices. Family dinners can be crime scenes. I know how paranoid that sounds. I know how unlikely it seems. I also know that I lost 12 years of my life and 3 children because I trusted people who were actively trying to destroy me. That trust almost killed me. Being suspicious might have saved me. My name is Serena. I was poisoned by my mother-in-law for 12 years while my husband watched and did nothing. I survived. Not intact, there are pieces of me that will never recover. But alive. Against all odds, against all intentions, alive. Patricia Hartwell wanted me dead. Gregory Hartwell wanted me gone. They got neither. What they got was prison sentences and destroyed reputations and a victim who refused to stay quiet. I am not the woman I was when I married Gregory. That woman was trusting and hopeful and desperate to belong. I am someone different now. Someone harder. Someone who checks everything twice and trusts nothing at face value. Someone who survived being slowly murdered by the people who were supposed to protect her. That's not a tragedy. That's a triumph. And no one can take it away from me.